Hello, and welcome to the 2020 EDUCAUSE virtual conference. We're excited to have you join us today for a discussion about new data architectures and how they're fueling innovation and data maturity in higher education institutions. My name is Dr. Sherry Bennett, and I'm the Chief Data Scientist at DLT, a tech data company. Joining me today are two fabulous speakers. The first, Dr. Abhay Joshi, Director of Analytics at Virginia Tech University, and Matthew Harrowing, who is the CEO of Intenda. Let's start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself. What is your role within your respective organizations? Dr. Joshi, let's start with you.
Morning, I'm Abhay Joshi, Director of Analytics in the Office of Analytics and Institutional Effectiveness here at Virginia Tech. Thank you, Sherry, for hosting me on the panel to discuss new architecture to drive innovation and data maturity at higher education. What my role here is, I am actually in charge of driving the analytical platform here at Virginia Tech. And our office actually serves the data and analytics needs of the entire university over here.
Great, Matthew?
Thanks, Sherry. And hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Harrowing. As Sherry mentioned, I'm the CEO of Intenda. My role is really to look at how these new data frameworks can support organizations as they begin to transfer to the new digital economy. Really how we unlock data. My passion is data, and my focus is really looking at new models to help clients deliver value.
Excellent. Thanks. Well, let's get right to it. First, let's get our questions. First one, you know, when we were preparing for the panel, we had a lot of discussion about new innovative approaches to information architecture, new data infrastructures. Dr. Joshi, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey over the last 4 years since you joined Virginia Tech, in particular about the architecture you have built to drive, really fuel data-driven decision-making at Virginia Tech.
Sure. So before I start talking about our data journey, a little bit about Virginia Tech. So Virginia Tech is a public land-grant university, doctoral, very high research location. We are in Virginia State, Washington, DC, Switzerland, and India. We have around 34,000 plus students, 9 colleges, including medical and veterinary schools. We are ranked 27th nationally in public universities as per the Wall Street Journal and Times Higher Ed, and ranked between 201 to 250 globally. So we have $1.6 billion total institutional budget, which is north of that. So in 2016, Virginia Tech took an important decision to move forward to a new budget model to manage the resources. The key motivational factors behind the decisions were need for attaining the financial autonomy, growth in operations, which we were planning for, and increased need for adapting to the changing demands and the opportunities. So the new model which we were actually moving in, the budget model, basically at the high level, the model would actually involve defining the metrics which are measurable and holding the functions or the colleges responsible for those metrics. So that would actually require us to look at the actually what is happening on the ground, setting the realistic goals, measuring the goals and measuring the outcome, and really allocating the money based on the performances against those metrics. So overall, what we needed is fundamentally we needed a data system which could actually support this and make it successful at the institution level. So this was a very kind of a path-breaking thing what we were moving into in 2016, and we started really the institution wanted to really build a data platform which could actually provide the insights, analytical information, and data to the managers which could actually help them in making decisions and actually supporting the discussions throughout the university in relation to the strategic goals and the objectives. So that was our motivation, and to achieve this, so we actually started, we had an institutional research and assessment evaluation office here at Virginia Tech, which was mainly meeting the compliance needs of the institution, primarily at the state and federal level. But we didn't have an analytical capacity within, which could actually help build this data, analytic capacity within the institution. So we started from scratch when I joined here in 2016. We had to make some important key decisions over here before we actually embarked on our journey. Few decision points what we needed was the business purpose. So what should be the business purpose? Are we going to serve the short-term goals of actually only meeting the PIB or the new budget model? Or are we going to build a data platform which can go beyond that and support the entire institution? Are we going to be building basically for meeting the need of just the strategic needs, or are we going to build a platform for meeting all kinds of like strategic, operational, as well as ad hoc needs? The other important decision was what kind of technology would we actually use, and how should we go about really implementing those, using those technologies? Are we going to really use open source technologies and build it in-house, or actually go for the off-the-shelf products and really follow a more traditional BI kind of a design? The other important thing is once we decide the technology, the hiring the talent and attracting the talent, which could help us build this analytical platform. That is another key decision, like where would we actually find and what kind of roles do we need to build this data platform? Okay. And these were the important discussions and decisions we were struggling with because there are a plethora of options available. Many other universities have chosen different paths. Most of them have chosen more traditional BI path. But our needs were, we needed to be more agile, built for the future, and making sure that it caters to our needs in terms of customization or able to really deliver these insights using a medium which can be scaled in the future. So what we did was, considering all these factors, we decided to really build in-house, invest in people, and actually use mostly the open source tools, but when needed, actually use the vendor-based tools to build a data platform. And considering the changing environments, changing needs, complexity of the environment, we actually went for more on the back-end side. We wanted to really build something which is scalable and built for the future. The other aspect of this is, if you look at the big 5 V's of a big data, we don't have volume, but we have veracity, variety, and the kind of system what we have hundreds of systems spread across different locations, which capture data in different formats. And we wanted to bring all of this data into one place and integrate that, because all of these systems here, most of them are not integrated with each other. So Data Lake seemed to be a good fit for us so that we can actually build this quickly, more in agile fashion, bring the data from these multiple systems of operational systems into one place, integrate cheaply, and then really start asking the business question and start serving these analytical insights or the data as needed for the business functions. So that's what we did. So we have currently on the backend side, we are building a data lake which will actually bring the data from multiple data sources and really integrate that in one place in the Amazon cloud environment. And then in the front end, we took a more agile or piecemeal approach where the application database still will be in the cloud, but the medium is, we built a web application, which we are calling it as a University Data Commons, which is kind of an enterprise analytic platform, which will be used by the end users to really to consume this analytical insights. So one other important piece is why cloud. In most of the higher education institutions, as probably you might know, the procurement process is pretty slow. So if we wanted to really build, we had to wait for months to really procure the infrastructure needs. So, and it wouldn't actually meet the agility needs, what we actually we needed. So because the requirements change over the period of time, and we wanted to build quickly, fail quickly, and come back and start building again. So this repetition cycle. So cloud actually helps us well. Multiple options were there. We chose Amazon because it fits well with the open source technologies, and particularly some of the products we were looking at, they had those services available. So that's what we actually have done. Using the cloud, build in-house, using the talent we have hired in data engineers, data scientists, and web application developers. We have built an enterprise analytical platform, which actually includes a variety of application within which services the different business functions, for example, enrollment management, faculty activity, graduate school, global education offices, institutional research, and many more. So we also actually have been working very collaboratively across, because most of the higher education institutions have a very decentralized setup within our culture, organization cultures. So this enables us for the business functions who have a capacity to collaborate with us and build their own, but include it in and be a part of the data platform. But if the business functions do not have that capacity, we in a central way build those applications and host it in this data platform. So that's in summary our journey and variety of things what we consider, the challenges we had. So to mention few challenges we currently have and we actually encountered even when we embarked on the journey was kind of lack of mature data governance, institution level data governance policy at the institution level, which was not there. That was one of the key things. And the other important thing was the acquisition of the talent, because this is a space which is very competitive to hire data scientists and data engineers. So we offer certain things as a higher education institution, but it's very difficult to compete with the private world. But we have done reasonably well, and we now have a data platform which has around 10 applications servicing different business functions within the institution. And we are slowly moving into building data lake, which will continue to evolve and service the entire institution.
Wow, that's great. Very exciting. Across all universities, if you think about the entire student life cycle, all the different types of systems that exist out there, from enrollment management, billing, residential staffing, all sorts of different systems, and pulling that data together and in a architecture that you can leverage and start doing reporting and building models and automating workloads. That's a big task. Sounds like you've done a great job there, and look forward to hearing a little bit more about some of the use cases. Matthew, when we think about all these disparate systems and all the different types of data, Dr. Joshi was talking about, the variety of data. When we had discussions, you use this term data fabric to describe modern data architecture. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say that, and in particular how Fraxis leverages this concept to fuel innovation across universities and frankly other organizations wrangling with the same issues?
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. So for the last 30 years, or actually since I've been in IT, let's put it that way, and beyond, organizations have kind of organized their data, how they organize their people, in pyramids, and it really creates problems. So we have our operational data, and then we create databases, and then data warehouses and data lakes. Now, the advantages we have with data lakes is the ability to put our structure to the data when we use it. And so it's great what Abby has been doing in creating a standard framework where the application layer can be standardized. With the data fabric, we've got an opportunity in using these new data architectures of leaving the data in its place and creating a fabric of interconnected data systems that enable us to access data without moving it. So think of a virtual data lake where my data by data type is now my product. So in the same way we moved from the monolithic application development to microservice in our application development, we're using microservices in how we organize our data and how we distribute our data. So a fabric enables me to connect to my data, to define data like student master, and that student master may be made up of 60 systems. And then I'm able to monitor my student and have my 360 student analytics as if I was using a data lake, but it's a virtual data lake. And I'm orchestrating my data in my environment rather than lifting and shifting it. Now, the advantage that it gives me is that, one, I can think about new data types. So historically, we've worked on structured. Now we work on PDFs, we work on voice, video, a lot of unstructured sentiment analysis. How are we doing? How are our students doing? What are they thinking? What's their social media profile? Are they saying negative things about us? These are all part of what we consider. And if we think about a fabric and the fact that we can now work with interconnected data, it means we can collaborate a lot more with other institutions. So as an example, many years ago in England, we were fortunate enough to create buying hubs by institutions in local areas so they could collaborate to save money. The problem with an institution, they spend a lot, but they don't spend enough to get the good deals. So if they collaborate, they can spend a lot and get good deals. So the ability of creating these hubs for functional purposes where data is the product that can be shared in a secure and distributed way enables the ability to unlock new services and also new ways of cost reduction and efficiency within our organizations, within our institutions.
Interesting. Yeah, it's sort of a different paradigm, if you will, of how to think about using the data behind your data to put it in a virtual landscape and getting over, frankly, a lot of hurdles, excuse me, that we see across actually the public sector more generally, which is organizations, different departments trying to share their data. People don't want anyone to touch their system. They don't want them to store their data, their security and privacy issues. And it sounds like Fraxis has a lot of things and more, obviously, but
yeah, so
enable getting over some of those hurdles.
And Fraxis is our core product that enables us to orchestrate data. But what you're able to do by defining the data object, so a data object might be student, another one might be department, another one might be a geographic location, or they could be attributes of data objects. But I'm only using the data on consumption. I'm only applying the data on consumption. So I have my virtualized data lake where I have all of my data elements known. And then I have my logical structure that is applied to the data as it is consumed. Now there are clever ways that we have of making that function on a live environment, but it enables us to think much broadly about how we think about data and how we unlock data. And the thing is, our data has commercial value. You know, whether we're an institution or you know, another type of government organization, it has real value. It has, you know, it directly impacts our performance. And data analytics is really, it's a tough nomenclature. So we've got analytics about data, and what we do with the data, the insights, is also referred to as data analytics. But the ability to manage analytics about data and track data and manage data across our distributed environments leads us to tremendous power. I tend to think of Fraxis as a virtual pop-up cloud. So you've got systems, I've got systems, we want those systems to communicate. I don't want to create copies of systems. I create a virtual cloud between the two of us, and now I can orchestrate my data as if I was working in a single environment. Now, what this gives us as these new data frameworks enables us to think, as we move to IoT in our institutions, where we've got a lot of monitoring going on, a lot of sensors going on, in classroom sensors, all of the data for our virtual classrooms, the student participation for our online activities, all of this type of data that sits normally on the edge of our frameworks now can be included into our continuous analysis. So as Abhay continues on his journey towards his data lake, and he moves into edge frameworks for his data lake, these are great things that can augment edge frameworks, manage IoT in a discrete hub, but include it into our analysis as if it was part of our environment. It's really unlocking our imagination around what we can really do with data in getting us away from the pyramid model of consolidate report that we've done. And I guess the last thing I'd like to add on that is we have to change our thinking a little from viewing events as a singularity, because they're not, and our data frameworks represent that. So if I'm selling you a laptop, in a data world, that tends to be a singular event, but it's actually not. The ownership of that laptop moves. The laptop moves. The value of that laptop changes depending on where it is, the age it is. It's a combination of value drivers and events that isn't well reflected in our data. And as we start to think about how we model the real world with our data, then fabrics enable us to take a multidimensional view to value and also events.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's amazing how time is flying, but before we go, I want to ask each of you to give some advice to leaders in higher education institutions that are just literally starting their data journey. Maybe they have some reporting, they're trying to think about how to use predictive models to help students be successful and drive better experience and outcomes. What are one or two things quickly that you think are key items to focus on when they're trying to think about how to start their journey so that they're in a position years coming, like yourself, Dr. Joshi, so that they can leverage data across the entire university?
I think couple of key things are, I think, understanding your needs and having a better data strategy. And the other important critical aspect is that a data governance policy, because higher education, like most other government organization, is regulated, particularly public universities, right? And just saying that we are heavily regulated, you can't really democratize data, and it's my data, ownership of the data, argument about that doesn't help. So that's more of a cultural, as well as having that governance policy from get-go, from the initial startup, is a critical thing. And the other thing is there are numerous platforms available, a variety of architectures available. The most important thing is to understand your needs and really start completely from scratch, in a sense, understanding your needs and building what is needed for you and the architecture which suits your needs, rather than really looking at somebody else who has implemented that, because that's a key of it. You may have talent, you may not have talent, you may have existing talent which you can repurpose. All those actually drive. And the other thing is, open source world is exciting, at the same time can be very challenging. So vendor-based tools, if some of them are really good, they can meet your needs, and you have to be wise in selecting those things which can actually fit within your puzzle of open source and the vendor-based tools. So those are key things. And the other important part is having a buy-in from the top leadership, and that actually is true everywhere, not just in higher education. Yeah. And making convincing arguments and really having leadership drive these kind of initiatives contribute to the success or failures immensely.
Thanks. Matthew, what about you?
I would say, number one, get informed about the new data frameworks, especially what's available in open source. Completely agree with that. Start to think in terms of new architectural frameworks, and don't be limited in your imagination of what can be achieved and how to go about achieving it. These new frameworks enable us to create reusable objects and reusable services in a distributed environment. And once you have defined your purpose and built a consensus around that purpose, imagining the art of the possible is fun. And these new data frameworks can really unlock some of this. And don't be bound by the problems you've faced in the past, because there are new approaches. So get informed would be my number one piece of advice.
Well, thank both of you so much for your time today and participating in this panel. And for those of you in the audience, thank you for joining us today as well. We hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.